and fewer monitoring and citing, all good reasons for regional landfills. And the EPA even said when it promulgated Subtitle D in the early 90s that one of the reasons was to reduce the number of small facilities. And you reduce, and again, you have fewer facilities to cite and permit and to monitor. But you may not know of how significant a trend this has been. We've gone from about 8,000 landfills in the late 80s to less than 1,600 in 2004. It's probably less than 1,500 today. So that's a significant drop, about 80%. The permitted disposal capacity has remained the same at about 8.7 billion tons, which represents about 35 years of capacity at the rate of 250 million tons a year disposal. So the number of landfills has been reduced, but the capacities remain the same. I think this is an important slide. What's happened as we've gone to regional landfills is we switched the ownership of the landfills from the public sector to the private sector. So this is for 2004 data. This slide shows that the big three of the 1,650 landfills in the U.S. in 2004, about a third of them were owned by the big three companies. Well, as you know, in this room, there's only big two companies now. That big three has become big two. Those two companies at that time owned about a third of the landfills, but what they also owned was 70% of the permitted disposal capacity in the United States. Two companies. If you conclude the other privates, 80%. So 1,000 public landfills, but only 20% of the capacity. Well, why is that a problem? Well, there's no longer a tipping fee differential. Instead of having a price and a cost and using the differential to fund recycling, that differential is used to pay for transferring and hauling this waste to the remote regional landfill. That's where that money is going now, and it's also going to the corporate coffers of those private companies. So it's no longer available. So local governments are in the same situation as you are. They cannot use that money, even if they have a landfill, even if they are disposing of tonnages. It's no longer available to fund recycling programs. How much time do I have? Am I okay?
You're okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, now for the good news. Let's talk about what we can do about this. We can look at sustainable funding approaches, taxes, fees, and service cost reductions. These are what we looked at for local governments, fees, service fees, and I'm not sure how much of this applies to state governments, but these are all things that we thought that local governments could do to get sustainable funding approaches. The last bullet is really how do we reduce our costs, and that is another way, kind of type of financing. I live in Matthews, North Carolina.